So today I have Mr. Hill, who is a dear friend of mine, actually. I've known him for quite some time, a great man. I've learned a lot from him myself. I've learned a lot about passion, about leadership, about integrity. But I want him to be able to give you guys some of the information that he's spoken to me about. So I would like you to know a little bit about Mr. Hill before I get into the questions. I call him a serial entrepreneur. He always has some pots in the fire, and I know that he's had at least 2 decades in the field. He's a published author. He is a House District Representative, a business coach, a husband, a father, and the list goes on. So without further ado, Mr. Hill, I appreciate you being willing to speak with me and give my students a little bit about what it takes to be successful.
Absolutely. I'm honored. Thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry that I'm coming to you live from the passenger seat of a car on the road, but we've had several meetings happening today, and so it's a little bit of a busy season. And but this is really important, and I really appreciate your teacher, your professor, Marcus Truelove, for reaching out to me and the opportunity to speak with you. And this is one of the great things I do get to do in my life is pour into the next generation of upcoming leaders and workers, and hope that anything I have to share today can help.
Well, I know for a fact it will. Let's go ahead and jump into some questions, Mr. Hill. So they know a little bit about your business acumen, but let them hear a little bit about yourself, kind of where you came from, how you grew up, or just about how you got into your profession.
Right. So I was born in a rural part of Tennessee. My parents were very young, and they had very little, very little. Both very hard workers. Grew up very. We were really poor when I was small, and story that I often tell is that the house that my parents brought me home to. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. The house that my parents brought me home to was an old farmhouse that the upstairs had busted out windows, so they hung blankets to keep the cold out. And my dad would sit up at night with a pitchfork to kill the rats that would try and get in my baby bed to and so that's kind of where I come from. My parents worked hard. My mother, when I was I think 12 or 13, opened a child care center out of our home. She built that and built it up until she eventually built a location and bought another location. And so that was my family's first experience with entrepreneurship. Was opening a daycare at that time out of her home, out of our home. My dad was blue collar. He managed a plumbing electrical distributorship, and so I went to work there when I was 11 during the summers, and I'd sling shingles and concrete and load 2x4s, and that was my first job, and worked there until I went off to college. And so I very much have had a strong work ethic because of that. And then I met my wife, young lady who's now my wife, Melissa, when we were in college.
This is amazing.
Well, she is amazing. And let me put a pitch in right here for you, that whatever you can accomplish as an individual, you will be able to do twice as much and twice it'll be twice as good by having the right person, being paired with the right person in life. I would not have been able to accomplish any of what I've been as my partner in both our businesses and in our life. And so I think that's very important. We met in '98. We then got married in 2001, about 3.5 years later. And we now have 2 kids. We have Eleanor, who is 14, and my son Josiah, who's 11. And so that's a little bit of background on who we are and how we got here.
So, Mr. Hill, I'm going to kind of veer away from the questions, if you don't mind, because
Yeah.
what I've seen, me personally, is that when you have someone who's grown up in a hard situation in difficult times, because of those hard situations in difficult times, those people are driven and they're focused and they have passion, and then they are able to raise their family up out of a predicament. But when it's time for their kids, so for instance, your parents grew up in poverty and that drove them to want something better for their kids, and then they had you and they said, well, we don't want this for Brian, so we're going to send him to college. Many times, once that child goes to college, they no longer have that drive and passion that their parents had because they're in completely different circumstances. What do you believe led you to have the same drive and passion? Even though you didn't grow up in the same circumstances your parents did, you still had that same drive and passion to accomplish what you have to this point.
Absolutely. So um, I believe part of it is a choice. I don't know that any of us are born with a strong work ethic. I think it's something that we learn and we choose along the way. The great part of that is where I had parents with a strong work ethic, um, and I developed my own out of it. Um, that doesn't mean that if you had parents that didn't have a strong work ethic, you can't choose and develop one of your own. Like, you are not confined or defined by what was before you, right? Just like my children won't necessarily have one just because it's genetic. They have to learn it and they have to choose it. And that's a great opportunity for us, because that means each of us has the ability to accomplish it. We can choose it. I may have been born poor, but I don't have to die that way, right? Like, if I've got a grit in my gut, thank God I live in the United States of America. I live in Oklahoma, which is one of the freest opportunity states there is, period. And I can go get it if I'm willing to work for it. And so I think that's the choice. When I was 11, I could either choose to go with my dad to work, or I could have chosen to stay with my grandparents or to go to some place, right? But instead, in my situation, I chose, right? When I was in college, I chose, rather than taking out additional student loan debt to survive on and to live on, I went and got a job. And I would go to class at 7 a.m. and I would be in class until noon. And then I would be at work at 1, and I would work from 1 till midnight. I worked every Saturday and Sunday. And I did that for 2 years until I graduated college. But when I graduated college, I bought my own first house. And Melissa and I, we lived in that house for the first 13 years of our marriage. We were eventually able to take that, rent it out for a while, and then we eventually turned it into a business or into a remodel flip that we were able to make profit off of, that became very profitable for us, right? But all of that happened because when I was, in college, I chose to work a job, right? And was that tough? Yes. Was it many long hours? Absolutely. Was it exhausting for a while? Yeah. But now, here I am 20 plus years later, and my family is still reaping the benefits because of tough choices I made 20 plus years ago. And so I think that's the key, is choosing to have a work ethic. And if you don't know what that looks like, finding examples, right? Maybe it's the manager of the place you work at. Maybe it's a gentleman or a lady that that, you know, is in your neighborhood or at your church, someone that you can look at who has worked hard for what they've got and who you can take their example, emulate it, and turn it into your own success. And I think that's a very, it's a solid working model that any of us can do.
So that was amazing advice. I appreciate the feedback, Mr. Hill. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? How did you decide that this is what I'm going to get into?
So I, it's funny now to be asked that because I remember I was, my goodness, I may have owned my first company before I had even heard the term entrepreneur. Like I don't ever remember thinking when my mom opened that first daycare out of our living room, I I don't even remember thinking, wow, this is a business, right? Like where I came from, that wasn't the talk. It wasn't the thing. In fact, my mom really didn't even have a support from my dad even in doing it. But my mom had a grit in her gut and a fire in her soul, and she knew that whatever she put her mind to, she could accomplish. And um, I do remember I was working for a brand of pharmacy at that time, a big box pharmacy company. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. Melissa and I had been married for a couple of years. And I remember thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. And I felt in my heart for at least about 6 months that I was supposed to step out. I'm supposed to reach out and I'm supposed to go for it. And we just didn't know exactly what that looked like at the time. And I was making great money, but we were fairly kind of miserable just because of it was sucking so much out of us. And we were looking for that opportunity to begin something bigger than ourselves. And eventually, the timing came along, and in 2000, 2003, that's when we opened our first company with Melissa and I. We went in partnership with my parents, and from there we built it, we expanded, we opened multiple companies, and you know there was a lot of failure that came along with that, and um, it hurt. Failure always hurts. Losing is never fun, and we just have to choose to continue to fight our way through it, learn from it, and keep moving forward. And that to me, I think one of the questions on it was something about success, and I can't remember how it was worded, but I think success, the idea of it, is tricky because it's easy to look at someone that is on social media, on Instagram, on TV, and think, "Wow, I really wish I had what they have. They're a success, right?" Or look at someone that has a title or position, or they own this, or they own that, or they drive this car or something, and base it on that. But that's not what success really is, because stuff is temporary. Like today, the top CEO, they can go out and buy the top car, and when they buy it, it might be a $300,000 car, but in 5 years, that car is going it's going to be around $30,000 or $40,000 in value. And when people look at that, then they see it differently, right? It's the exact same thing with our ideas of success. And so what I hope you hear from me is that success is much more about who you are inside, the people that you surround yourself with, more than the stuff you surround yourself with. because my car, I can have a wreck in it today and it could be gone, right? And then it's gone. My house, Lord forbid, I mean, we live in Oklahoma, a tornado, a fire, earthquake, whatever, right? And so it can't be dependent upon the stuff. But, you know, what I do know is I've got certain people around me. I have my wife, I have my children, I have my family, I have my friends. I have people that I could call if I needed something. And um, that that comes with doing life with people, and that's success. Um, and I just happen to believe that the money will will follow if you strive to do the right thing, you surround yourself by the right people, and you find people to look up to to that are part of your life that can be examples and mentors. And I believe, as a guy that that's had nothing, that had a little something, that had less, and some days has a couple of nickels in his pocket to rub together now, um, that it's not about the money and it's not about the stuff. That's not what success is. Success to me is knowing your passion and having people around you that you get to call family and friends.
I honestly think if this interview was over right now, that just by hearing that, that would be enough. But fortunately, we have a few more questions we can ask, so I'm gonna continue to go. Uh,
Please
what
enjoy
do
it.
you, what do you feel is the most difficult thing about the title/titles that you currently hold?
Yeah. So with any title that you get in life, whether it's professor or entrepreneur or dad or representative or author, any title you get, people have assumptions, right? If they see someone on TV, they assume that they have a bunch of stuff, therefore, wow, their life must be great, right? But life is life, and that comes with ups and downs, and um, and so what I would say is don't chase the title. Titles will come, but titles will also go. Today, I'm a state representative. Because of term limits, that can only last for another 10 years. And who will I be, even if I stay another 10 years, who will I be in 10 years? Will I still be Brian, even when the, the title comes off? I remember a few years ago, uh, we we were transitioning out of one of our companies. It was the one we had the longest. We had it for, I think, about 16, 17 years at that point. And I remember saying to a fellow entrepreneur, if I don't have this, am I still an entrepreneur? And essentially, I was saying, if I don't have this title, do I still have value? And the answer is yes, because my value can't be in what I do. My value has to be in who I am and the relationships I have, and to me, it's in my faith in my Creator, because that's where my true value comes from, and it allows me to value other people and to pour into other people. But it's not about my title, and so that would be part of my encouragement to you is don't ever buy into the falsehood of a title. Titles come and titles go. You can accomplish things with or without the title, and you can make a difference. And so don't get stuck on the title. Uh, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that have really cool titles, president, CEO, but at the end of the day, if everybody else walks out the building, the floor ain't mopped, you're the head guy that's mopping it. That's right. Like at the end of the day, if you're the boss, I think in the end, that might mean that you're cleaning up the mess. And so Titles aren't all they're cracked up to be, is all I'm saying. I'm grateful for the titles and the honors that some I've earned and some that have been bestowed on me by people voting me into an office. But that does not determine my value. And so that's something I hope you hear, each of you students.
So you have had the honor and the privilege to do many things that many people dream of. There are always people who say, I would like to do this or do that or be here and do certain things, but they don't really understand what it takes to get to that point or what you have to do to actually be in that situation. But there are privileges that come with the life that you've lived. So what would you say would be the most rewarding thing that you get to do because of the decisions you've made?
I have been able to open doors for my kids that I could not have ever imagined. Because of the sacrifices that Melissa and I have made, my kids, uh, my daughter has a pony. Now, I traded a set of cheap tires and rims for my daughter to have a pony, and it was something I always wanted when I was younger, and my parents never could afford. Uh, and so that to me is extremely gratifying. My kids, they know the governor, and the governor knows them. So that's kind of cool, and that's kind of a byproduct of some of the stuff the sacrifices we've made. So yeah, I mean, I I've been blessed to travel. I've been blessed to make a difference. Um, I, I've been blessed to be a published author, to take thoughts that I had in my head and to be able to share them with the next generation, right? Like that's something that's pretty cool. So those are kind of some of the things that Melissa and I have kind of been able to do because of some of the sacrifices. I get to drive my dream car. Like, now, don't get me wrong, and this is a little side note. When whatever your dream car is, okay, find it used, right? Because then the new sticker shock on it has already worn off. And if you buy it just right, you can buy it at a place to where you could then turn around a few years later and sell it and get your money back if you're really good at it. But even if not, buy it used. My son, he wants to play professional baseball someday, and he talks about, Dad, I'm gonna buy a this, I'm gonna buy a that, and I always tell him, I'm like, that's fine, but you're gonna buy it used. You're gonna buy it with some miles on it. Why? Because that's gonna knock off a huge amount of the cost of it, right? So that's a little freebie for you. If you want a Cadillac, great. Rather than buying the new 2021, go find yourself the 2015, 2016 model. Save yourself some money. All right. I have my what really was my dream car. I remember years ago looking at that car and thinking, my goodness, if I ever could, that's the one I'd buy. Well, I bought a 2013 model, right? I bought it 2 years ago. So I think I bought it in, um, 2000 or so 2018, 2019. It's when I bought it. So I bought it about 6 years on it, 7 years on it. And I got it for literally a tenth of what the brand new price was on that car. Okay. So that makes it okay, right? That saved a lot of money. It was being smart. Could I have gone out and extended myself on the other? Maybe, but why would I? Right? So so that's some of the cool stuff. And that was a little sidebar on it. Buy used, buy good, but buy used, okay? Save yourself some money. That's just being smart. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Great information. Seriously, this is stuff that I feel like we should definitely teach more in school. And I'm glad
Right.
that they're able to get some of it from you for sure. So I am educating some students, and some of them have never held a job before. We
Yeah.
a lot of different information. We talk about putting yourself in the right position. We talk about integrity and morals and all those things. But what
Mhm.
information or what kind of thought process do you believe someone should have when they're first going into the workforce? And it seems like there's so much information coming at you that it's almost overwhelming. What would you say the essentials would be?
Essentials. Um, the number one thing I'm looking for is someone that will come to work. That's like the baseline, okay? Like, that is putting the key in the ignition and expecting it to start. Like, that's number one, is if I've done hundreds of interviews for multiple companies, and that is the number one thing, is I need loyalty. I need someone that's going to come to work, that I can depend on. Like, that is so crucial. Just hired someone to manage one of my companies in Texas, and just literally on Monday of this week. And that's the number one thing I'm looking for, is dependability. And you can tell, like, you can typically tell in an interview. I can tell within about 5 to 10 minutes, um, what your ethic is, what your strength is. Are you going to come to work? That's number one. Loyalty, that's part of it. Um, Personality is so crucial. You know, I will take personality over talent, because if someone has talent but they don't have a personality, it's going to be hard for them to reflect my company. I need someone that has has um, a desire to be there, someone that wants to be part of what we're doing. It's what every entrepreneur wants. Is, as a business owner who I've given myself to this company, or as a manager who is managing this company and spending 50 to 60 hours a week there, I need someone that when I'm not there, I am convinced is going to reflect my passion for this business. And what I have found is that people that have that type of charisma and commitment and loyalty, they succeed. Like, whether it's with this company or another company, those are the people that leaders are looking for to turn into the next generation of leaders. Those are the type of people I'm looking to pour into, because if I can raise up a person like that, wow, I can do something. I can do something great. And that's what all great leaders are looking for, is our replacement. I'm always looking for the person that, if you're here, I don't have to be, which allows me to move on to what else I can do. And so I think that's, be loyal, show up. That's the foundation. That's the base. That's as base level as you get, is come to work. Be on time, be ready, have yourself together. Hey, and one more thing I'll tell you, and this is a core piece to me. I All the cool things I get to do now, I can trace back to walking into an interview wearing a tie. And I was trying to get a job at Walmart. I was 20, and I was desperate for a job at that point. I'd just gone back to college, and my savings was wearing away quick. And I walk into a Walmart to try and get a job, and I walk in, and they're doing this mass hiring, like 300 people. And I go in, and it drops from 300 down to 150, down to 30, down to 15. Next thing I know, I'm one of three in the room, and I look around, and I'm the last one in the room. Had been interviewed 5 times at that point. And at that point, I was just hoping to be a cashier or a cart pusher, because I needed a job. Next thing I know, this guy comes in the most perfect tie, white shirt, hair fixed. It felt like the owner of Walmart just walked in. He wasn't, but it felt like it. Sits down, he asks me a few questions, gets up, walks out. Next thing I know, someone else comes in and they're like, hey, we don't know that we've ever done this, but we would like to hire you into management. And okay. And so they, they give me a badge and red shirt and all those things. And I end up being promoted 5 times over the next 2 years. And as a 22-year-old, I was managing the majority of the entire store, including the cash office, all the registers, layaway, the garden area. Like I had everywhere there was money, I was in charge of that. And I got to ask that guy about 2 years later, the one that came in with the perfect tie and the perfect shirt and the hair. I got to ask him, Jerry, why did you take a risk on me? Why me? He said 2 things. He said, you had a great personality. You knew how to talk. He said, but the other thing, you were the only one that wore in a tie to the interview. I can literally trace everything I've got to do back to that. I wore a tie to the interview. The tie wasn't the special part. The fact that I did something just a little extra above, that made the difference. So if I can say anything to you, do that little bit of extra. Whatever that extra is for the job you're trying to go get, do the extra. Wearing a 50-cent tie from the thrift store could change your entire situation in life.
So, Mr. Hill, do you have any pet peeves when it comes to employees and the work that they're required to do?
I
You've
do.
hired, you had to let people go, you've gone through the whole process. Do you have anything that you say, this right here just bugs me when it happens?
When you come in for an interview, it's like a first date. If you go as a teenager on a first date and you wear uh, um, the same stuff you were out playing football in, all smelly and got dirt all over you, and you got smudges on your face, or you were out in the garden and or out in the field with the horses, and I got manure on my shoes, and I come in and I'm trying to go on a first date. It's probably not going to be a second date, right? I think all of us would accept that. An interview is very much that same thing. When you come in for an interview, this to the person doing the interview, typically the entrepreneur, the owner, the manager, this is as good as it gets. Like, this is the top right here. This is as polished and together as I can probably ever expect you to be. And so that interview is crucial. Come prepared. Be ready. Make eye contact. When you come in the room, shake my hand. Introduce yourself. These are key core principles to getting a solid job. Come dressed for what you want to be. If you want to be viewed as a potential for management, don't come in unless you're going to be a doctor. Don't come in wearing scrubs. Come in dressed for whatever the height of the position you want to be. So if you one day want to be managing that hotel or that restaurant or that business, and the manager wears a tie, there's no reason you shouldn't come into that interview dressed like you're the manager. Why? Because it sets in that person's mind, wow, this guy means what he's coming in for, right? And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like I said, a 50-cent tie from the thrift store can make all the difference, because it's more the fact that you're doing something above and beyond. So my pet peeve, I say all that to say, my pet peeve is when someone comes in unprepared for what they're capable of. I believe that that person that comes in could be running my company someday. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked them to come in for me to interview them, because that interview is taking my time. And if I'm going to commit my time to it, I want them to commit their time in coming in and putting their best forward. And that I think any of us can do. We can all be prepared. We can all be put together. We can all, whether it's a tie or whether it's our nicest pair of shoes or a nice pair of jeans, if we don't have slacks or whatever it is, we can do our best to put our best foot forward. And if we do that, that can make all the difference. The other thing I will say is my pet peeve is when someone comes in and they don't appear interested. They don't appear like they're excited to be here, right? Because if you're not excited to be in this interview with me, you're not going to be excited to work at my company. And once again, I want you to represent me as the owner or as the manager if I'm not there. And so if even coming into the interview, you're not excited about the opportunity and showing it in your actions, then I don't know if I'll hire you because I know what I'm looking for, right? So I need you when you come in to interview for my company. And I say that for any company because all managers or owners, we're all going to feel the same, right? Because we all do a bunch of interviews and we're looking for the right person. And I believe you students, hands down, right? Like you are the people. You're the right choice. Make sure they know it and they feel it when you're in the room.
So, Mr. Hill, I've heard you speak multiple times in many different scenarios. That is the final question that I have as far as this interview goes, but it never gets old. I really enjoy hearing you speak. I really enjoy your feedback. And one reason why I enjoy you speaking to my class and in different situations, because I know that you're a family man. I know that you're a man of integrity. I know that you're a man of morals. But when I look at you, just as an entrepreneur, just as a man that works out in the field, that works in business, your passion always comes through. And I've seen it for years, years and years and years. So one thing that I get out of this interview as I'm talking to my students is that as you speak, I can hear passion. As you talk about the scenarios, I hear passion. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to do something with their lives that they can exude that same passion with. So if you have any final remarks or words or anything that you feel like we did not cover, I'm going to leave it up to you to finish us out.
Awesome. Um, I Let me say this is I know your teacher, your professor, Mr. Truelove, and I know that he is there because he believes in you. And I can tell you that I know the executive team of Canadian Valley, and I can tell you that all of them are there because they believe in you. They believe in the opportunities that for you. And as I was saying before, it's important to look at examples of successful people that you can have as a voice in your life. And I want you to know that as someone that's spoken at Canadian Valley multiple times, that has met with your leadership there and who knows Mr. Truelove personally, you've got some great examples around you. And these people care and they're invested in you. And I just want you to know there's a state full of people across Oklahoma that feel that same way. We are betting on you. We believe in you. We know you are the next generation of leaders, and you, I hope, feel that support because I know it's there. I know Mr. Truelove believes in you, and when you have questions on these types of things, you've got resources around you that can help you process through that. And we know there's greatness in each and every one of you because of the choices you've made to be at Canadian Valley. Like we know that, right? Like you are the ones that have chosen to do bigger and better, to provide a better life for yourselves and for your family. And we know that, and we believe in you for it. And so I hope you feel that support, and I hope you know that you have a greater community around you, that, we believe in you. We believe in your success, and we know you're going to do great things. And I'm excited. I'm excited about that program you're in. I've been able to be around it a lot over the last few years, and we are seeing people succeed. And if you will take many of these um, um, directions and the advice that you're getting from Mr. Truelove and from some of the speakers that are coming in, and hopefully some of the stuff I gave you today, you're going to do all right. You're going to do well. And there are no limits other than the limits you put on yourself. So don't limit yourself. I may have come from poverty, but there was a plan, and because I had grit in my gut and a creator on my side, I'm able to have the privilege of talking to you today, and I've been able to do some cool stuff. Uh, and so you've got people that believe in you, and so I'm in your corner, and I know Mr. Truelove is too, and I look forward to hopefully getting to either talk to you guys soon when we're all able to be in the same room, and I look forward to being back at Canadian Valley very soon. God bless you.
Well, Mr. Hill, we look forward to having you back. I really do appreciate your time, and you take care, sir.
You too, sir. Appreciate you. Take care.